Hi, my name is Maxwell Gordonier. I am in the technical design for GIS and civil technician. And I am coming out of the arboriculture industry. I've worked for a small tree crew for 4 years now, and I still do work on the side and mostly do a lot of bidding. But today's speech will be about that. Let's start with a quote. When we build, let us think that we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor for present use alone. Let it be such work as our descendants will thank us for. And let us think, as we lay stone on stone, that a time is to come when those stones will be held sacred, because our hands have touched them. And that men will say, as they look upon the labor and wrought substance of them, see, this our Father did for us. By John Ruskin, a common man and timber framer. So most probably let the words tree cutting paint a picture in their minds when tree work is the utterance. Other more sophisticated or drab adjectives could be used, but for me, whether I'm pruning a fruit tree, rigging the madrona away from a house, climbing the cedar, felling the fir, milling dimensional lumber, or maybe I'm whittling some spoons, constructing a home or a shed, tree work is the standard experience. For the common woman or man, there are really only two essential things that need to be understood about wood before one goes to work with it in any capacity. It doesn't matter if you're making a table, a cutting board, a house, a mess of limbs on the ground, pruning an acer, a maple tree, or chunking out bombs, as we say in the industry. There is wood that is in tension, and there's wood that is in compression. Let us consider the Douglas fir, or the Pseudotsuga menziesii. The actual wood in the tree is made up of cells. The two most known are the xylem and phloem, and we usually know them as the tree rings. And as the seasonal production of the xylem, which is towards the interior, which is made by the cambium, and the phloem is on the exterior towards the bark. So as the seasonal production of the xylem by the cambium creates new rings, we're able to count those over the years. And we can tell the state of the seasons that went through the tree as we look at the space between each. So a typical Douglas fir specimen grows relatively in a state of equilibrium. The vascular system, or the xylem and phloem, is stacked on top of itself horizontally as it elongates. This state of opposing momentums is the foundation of the potential energy in the tree. So now consider my arm here, sticking out of my chest, as if it were a branch on a Doug fir. All the wood on top here would be wood that is in tension, because it is trying to pull the weight of the branch up. And all the wood on the bottom here would be wood that is in compression as it tries to hold up the weight of the branch. The rings of this branch would have tighter rings on top as the years go by, attempting to tension it up. And as the rings are compressed on the underside of the inevitable gravity, they become wider. And one should have this in mind when you go to work with wood in any capacity. So when one picks up wood, you can see years of form slowly shaped by the elements and hopefully decades of respiration. And water is the most obvious factor in one's mind that creates what we call maybe a warp. However, it is the process of water escaping the wood, the cells in the wood, which creates a bend or a twist or a crack in the end, or maybe you have a 2x4 that shoots off, or maybe you have a plank that is cupped, or a cutting board that's cupped. So the existing tension or compression within the structure of the wood is exacerbated when the water escapes too quickly in one direction or in all directions. So we all have probably picked up the 2x4 that is bowed, or the cutting board that's warped, or have a door that gets stuck seasonally. Or maybe you had a branch come through your deck that ripped out. Or maybe the roots of the tree are growing into the foundation. Or maybe you've taken shade under a perfectly placed branch on a nice hot day. So all these circumstances obviously have many factors that contribute, but as for the wood, it was the equilibrium state of tension and compression that bore the opportunity, and the rest is circumstantial, depending on the species. So tree failure occurs when these two states of tension and compression fall out of equilibrium, and one of these potential energies is given the opportunity to express itself. I like to call this the module of rupture. If you have a fir tree in your backyard, say for instance, that has a giant swoop at the bottom, and then like another 50 feet above it of tree, then you have the potential for a situation. Now, say there was a wound near the bottom, and there is now some decay and some fungal growth and some bugs that go munch munch. Now you have a weakened spot, and you will, the rest of reality will continue to work itself out. You'll either have an existing, continuing to thrive, fine specimen, or you'll have like a windstorm, an ice event, or even just spring foliage tip the scales in the direction of too much deflection, which is a measurement of board tension. That. So one of these potential energies will overpower the other and slip. Hopefully there aren't any cars or such underneath of it. So when I'm considering a complicated rigging setup, if the branch is gonna just fall straight to the ground, or if it's gonna take a turn into a window or a gutter, or when I'm reviewing how a fir has fallen in the forest and it has like plinkoed in between the trunks and is snaked in there, and I have to safely cut it up without the tension or compression of it hitting me or breaking my saw, or maybe you can consider the same thing when your door gets stuck. It swells with water, but the tension in it is what pulls it. The compression is in what gets it stuck. So consider these forces, tension and compression, from now on when you're observing the way in which the wood around you is moving. So the next time your husbands, or maybe your wives, go out and say they're going to cut the tree and get it caught in the adjacent, or God forbid, maybe they start with a ladder, test them on what parts are in tension and what parts are in compression. If they can't answer, then please direct them to the nearest professional arborist. For I believe you want your children to look upon the stump that remains and say, see, this our Father did for us.